Hi, this is Sniz, World 38, Lord of Ultima. In this video, I'm going to be covering the miscellaneous component of what I consider part of a basic resource city. As I'll give my typical disclaimer, it's one shot, no rehearsal, barely have bullet points, so don't expect polish here. It's just me talking with the visual aid. Basically, I'm just going to cover, in this one, I'm going to cover the miscellaneous elements of resource city. There's a few pieces that I consider an essential part of a resource city. That is, you've got your markets. I typically recommend having at least 2 markets in every resource city. That gives you the ability to ship out by land. If you're going to, you typically want the harbors for gold production anyway, but an incidental benefit is obviously if you have a harbored city, having at least 2 harbors is typically a good idea. Now this is a rating, which I'll cover in a second, but at least a Moonstone Tower. In terms of just getting to a large empire, for those who haven't played before, imagine yourself managing 150, 200, 300 cities. The game has come a long ways in terms of how much tedious micromanagement's involved. The bottom line is, a rule of thumb I'm following is every single city I will have a Moonstone, level 10 Moonstone Tower in it, which means that with ministers you can tell it to auto purify anything over your cap, and you have the ability to, if you're needing to do research or something like that, you can just click through your cities. You don't have to ship anything anywhere. You can just purify it in place. So there's a few what I consider kind of reserve slots in every city. That is, I typically have at least 2 markets. In a watered city, I'd also have at least 2 harbors. I would have at least 1 Moonstone, and something that I didn't do in this particular city, but I am starting to consider virtually essential, is at least 1 warehouse. And typically I'll position that warehouse in, let me cover some of the mechanics and then a little bit of the strategy. In this, I'll cover warehouses, Moonstone Towers, but let me start with the marketplace. Marketplace, it boosts gold production of nearby townhouses. It gives you carts, which allow you to transport goods over land. And at level 10, you get 200 carts, so with 2 of them, you get 400 carts, which gives you the ability to ship about 400,000 in resources at a time. Also gives you the ability to settle if you end up having a temple. Harbor's kind of the same thing. At level 10, you get 30 merchant ships. Merchant ships can carry 10,000 per ship, so just 30 ships give you 300,000. It can carry a lot of resources. Now, as far as, let's see, so that covers the basic mechanics of the marketplaces and harbors. I don't actually have one here, but I'll just grab an example here. This particular city is fairly heavy on stone production. When you place a warehouse, if you place it next to one of the super boosters, one of the mills, masons, etc., it gets a significant bonus to the amount of that type of resource it stores. So typically when I'm placing my 1 warehouse per town, there's towns where I have more than 1 warehouse, but the minimum of 1 warehouse that I place, I'll typically look at my city design. In this case, this is heavier stone production city than anything, and typically what I'll do is I'll just try to place that warehouse next to a stonemason. Like in this case, I'd probably drop it here if I had built that into this city. This city's done. I probably won't fix that, but just to give you an idea, this is where I would have probably put my warehouse. Occasionally you'll have a situation where, I don't think I have it in this city, but you might have a tile where it could touch a stone and a wood over booster, super booster, and obviously if I can do that, then that boosts both of those resources. So anyway, as far as position of warehouse, I typically like to place at least 1. It gives you another 200,000 of storage of all types, and if it's touching a super booster, it gives you a lot more storage. I can't remember exactly how much the boost is, but a significant amount more of that type of resource. So putting it on the one that you're going to be producing the most of, that's probably the one that you're going to be overproducing, capping out, and in each city. So that covers the basic mechanics of the warehouse. On the Moonstone Tower allows you to recruit units. I think mages and warlocks are the only ones there. But the most important aspect of Moonstone's Tower, at least in this context, is the ability to purify resources. Purifying resources allows you to research, increase your Baron count, boost your units, etc. So when it comes to down the road, when you have capped cities and you kind of want to just put them on autopilot, just purifying if you're not shipping anything out of them, having one of those in every town is critical, at least in my design. So the other little piece, just kind of falls in the miscellaneous category of a resource city, is the concept of raiding and or baron production. If you're in a city that you're going to want to be able to produce barons, I don't do temples in every city, but typically I want at least 1 or 2 baron producing locations per cluster, and very often I'll try to do that on a watered city, so this city can settle by land or sea. So if you're going to want to, it's kind of a wasted slot to, I wouldn't say put a temple in every single city, but you'll want to have your, it's kind of like one of those mainstays. You want to be able to produce barons for future settling and whatnot. So this city has a baron producing building. It has a moonstone producing building. Now these other buildings are, and I'm not going to get into military in these videos for quite some time, but I'm going to discuss briefly the value of raiding. I'm probably going to do an entire video on doing some of the math of raiding. If you look at a raiding force as your ability to produce a certain number of troops who can then go out to the region and hit a dungeon that is in infantry, for example, in this case it's infantry. If you can send 5 raids 2 hours away, 4 hours round trip, when you do the math on what those units will bring back in total resources, including the extra gold that they carry, you will find that actually a raiding building, a military building, when it has an active raiding force associated with it, you will actually, even after you calculate losses, even after you calculate the food that they eat, as long as you can keep them raiding within a 10-hour round trip, you will find that these buildings are actually producing more resources than your other buildings, your resource buildings themselves. In addition, you'll find that this is also a potential auxiliary defense force. I'm not going to cover a lot of my defense strategies here. I'll probably do a more secure location when I cover that. But just really quick, if you have, in this case, I'll just use this as an example. This cluster can produce berserkers and rangers. Not only could I produce berserkers, which are better for raiding than rangers, and raid heavily, if I started to look into a defensive scenario, I could actually convert that force. It takes some time, obviously, but as the map changes and the game board changes, if I start to feel like I might need more defenses in this area, I may take this exact same building design, start producing replacement rangers over zerks. And now rangers are not as good of a raiding force, but they are a sufficient raiding force, and they are a positive raiding force. You can cover your losses and a considerable gain. And at the same time, those rangers are excellent defensive units, and therefore what I could have here if I wanted is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9. I could have out of this city I can have a force of 9,000 rangers who raid, produce as much income as a resource building, and at the same time could be recalled and sent to a city consolidated with a bunch of other similar cities in the cluster, and could mount a sizable defense force as well. So it's got quite a bit of value at this stage, although there's a lot of different variations on this. If you choose to put a raiding component, now the other thing about raiding is it takes a little more, even in the long run, it takes more micromanagement. So depending on your play style, how often you can play, how much you want to be on tweaking and resending and reconfiguring and recruiting and all that, some of that can be automated. But definitely, if you have a capped finished resource city that's just resources, it's going to be lower maintenance than a capped resource city with a raiding contingency or component to it. So just keep that in mind. But anyway, so in this particular case, that's kind of another little miscellaneous aspect. If you choose to develop a raiding force, you can do that in a little chunk of your resource city. I'm getting close to my cap on time here, but I'm going to go ahead and cover one piece, and that is for the players who are new. I would strongly recommend, this is for gold, I would strongly recommend raiding out of your first couple of cities. You can look at this in the wiki, but basically the amount of gold that you get from raiding diminishes considerably the higher the levels you get. So if you're trying to just raid a ton and you're trying to hit level 7, level 8, It's not producing tons of gold, although the gold is a nice bonus. Early on, you can get massive bang for your buck if you are rating level 2 and 3 and even 4 dungeons, and that'll really help with your early gold production. So that's it for this video. More to come.